Did P. Diddy really get away with crimes directly in the spotlight? Welcome to That's My Opinion, where we talk about today's biggest topics to spark honest conversations. I'm Bacon Bears, and today we're diving deep into the dark side of fame, power, and secrecy. P. Diddy has been a household name for decades, but we have recently found out that behind the glamour and the success lies a series of shocking criminal allegations. If you like what you see here, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get started. Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, or even Brother Love, no matter how you know him, Sean John Combs has been a dominant figure in music for decades. As of January 2025, Sean Diddy Combs is indeed incarcerated, awaiting trial later this year. However, beyond his present legal issues, one thing he's been doing for decades is getting himself into quite a bit of trouble. In 1991, he was working at Uptown Records, where he quickly rose through the ranks. However, his time there was cut short after being let go under circumstances that some considered controversial, with allegations surrounding his management style, which, if you've ever seen an episode of Making the Band with Danity Kane, I could only imagine what that style was in 1991. While the exact reasons for his dismissal were never fully clarified, it was a pivotal moment that pushed Combs to go on and create his own label, Bad Boy Records. One of the most notorious aspects of Sean Diddy Combs' career is his connection to the infamous East Coast West Coast hip-hop rivalry of the 90s, and the tension between him and Tupac Shakur. The rivalry between the East Coast, where you would find Diddy and Notorious B.I.G., and the West Coast, home to Tupac, Death Row Records, Snoop, Dre, Ice Cube, and so on — we are West Coast in this house, if you were wondering — was at the heart of a cultural and musical battle that dominated hip-hop during this era. Diddy, as a key figure in the East Coast scene, was closely associated with Biggie Smalls, Tupac's direct rival. But the real tie between Diddy and Tupac comes from the 1994 shooting at Quad Studios in New York City. Tupac was shot multiple times during a robbery, and he later accused Diddy and Biggie's camp of being involved or complicit in the attack. Though there was never any concrete proof, Tupac's accusations deepened the tension between the East Coast and West Coast artists. Diddy has always denied any involvement in the shooting, and despite the rumors, the incident marked a significant moment in Tupac and Diddy's relationship. The situation only escalated after Tupac was killed in 1996, and then Biggie was murdered in 1997. Though Diddy has always maintained his innocence and had no part in either of the murders, the unresolved tension continues to be a part of the legacy of both Tupac and Biggie's deaths. In April of 1999, Sean Diddy Combs landed in legal trouble after an altercation with Steve Stout, a manager at Interscope Records. The incident stemmed from a music video for Nas's song Hate Me Now, which featured both Nas and Combs in the scenes depicting crucifixion. Combs found the imagery blasphemous and asked for his scenes to be removed. However, when the video aired on MTV on April 15th of 1999, his scenes were still included. And furious over the unedited release, Combs confronted Stout at his office and physically assaulted him, and this resulted in assault charges. That same year, Combs was involved in a highly publicized nightclub incident that escalated into a shooting, leaving 3 people injured. Combs, his then girlfriend, Jennifer Lopez, and rapper Shyne were all tied to the case. Combs faced weapons possession and bribery charges, but was acquitted in 2001. However, Shyne was convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison. In 2001, Combs was arrested in Florida for driving with a suspended license. Then in 2015, he was arrested at UCLA's athletic facilities after an altercation involving a kettlebell weight. The incident reportedly stemmed from concerns about how his son, Justin, a member of the football team, was being treated. Combs faced charges, including assault with a deadly weapon, but the Los Angeles County District Attorney declined to file felony charges. And honestly, there are countless other legal issues tied to Combs, but at this point, I've hit a level of frustration because it's hard to ignore how wealth and status allow people like Sean Diddy Combs to seemingly avoid the consequences that others, particularly Black men in America, would face in similar situations. If he were anyone else, he wouldn't have gotten away with so much. In fact, he would probably have been overcharged for something minor, as we so often see. However, all of this was just a precursor to what we are seeing now and what he's going to trial for in 2025. In March of 2024, Sean Diddy Combs faced a new lawsuit from music producer Rodney Lil Rod Jones. And Jones, who was already suing Combs for sexual assault, accused both Combs and his son Justin of covering up their involvement in a shooting of a 30-year-old man at a writers and producers camp held at Combs's Chalice recording studio in Los Angeles in September of 2022. Just weeks later, on March 25th of 2024, Brendan Paul, a known associate of Combs and former Syracuse University basketball player, was arrested at Opa-locka Airport in Florida for cocaine and controlled substance possession. He was released the next day after posting a $2,500 bond. In court documents, Little Rod accused Paul of being Combs's, quote, drug mule, adding fuel to the growing list of allegations tied to the music mogul. And this wasn't the first time that Combs faced accusations of misconduct. Back in May of 2017, Cindy Rueda, his former personal chef, filed a lawsuit against him in Los Angeles, alleging sexual harassment and retaliation. The case was settled in February 2019 for an undisclosed amount. Fast forward to November 16th, 2023. And that's when Cassie Ventura, a singer and Combs's ex-girlfriend, filed a bombshell lawsuit accusing him of rape, sex trafficking, and physical abuse. The lawsuit also alleged that Combs was responsible for blowing up the car of Ventura's then boyfriend, rapper Kid Cudi. Shockingly, because I believe the amount that she originally asked for was like $30 million. Within a day of the lawsuit being filed, Combs and Ventura reached an undisclosed settlement, and the case was dismissed. However, it was the rumblings of everything leading up to it and Cassie Ventura's bravery in coming forward that finally blew the doors wide open. Her allegations shed light on some of the most heinous activities, ones that seemingly everyone in the industry knew about, except for the rest of us. Normies. In a report, Cassie Ventura talked about how she was 19 and Sean Combs was 37 when she signed to Bad Boy Records, which was Sean's record label. She alleged that he demanded complete control over her life, making it nearly impossible for her to escape. She said that in 2007, he pressured her to start dating him. She also alleged that he gave her copious amounts of drugs and would exhibit, quote, uncontrollable rage while frequently beating Miss Ventura savagely. She claimed that she had to stay in hotels for days until her bruises would go away and that she, quote, began to blindly follow his instructions out of fear of again being on the receiving end of a vicious beating. Cassie introduced the world to what people knew as, quote, freak-offs, which is where Diddy allegedly wanted to watch Cassie perform acts with sex workers. She claimed that the freak-offs would involve an insane amount of drugs. Cassie alleges she tried to break up with Combs, but he then allegedly forced his way into her home and raped her. Even though Diddy's lawyer said that the settlement was, quote, in no way an admission of wrongdoing. In May of 2024, CNN released damning surveillance footage, disgusting footage. I've only seen it once and it'll be burned in my brain forever, of Sean Combs physically assaulting Cassie Ventura at the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles back in March of 2016. The footage corroborated one of the many allegations Ventura made in her lawsuit. 2 days later, on May 19th, Combs issued a public video apology on Instagram and Facebook, admitting his actions were, quote, inexcusable and expressing remorse. And yet, according to the federal indictment filed later that year, Combs attempted to bribe hotel staff to cover up the incident. I bet you're sorry now. As the year progressed, the floodgates truly opened. On October 1st of 2024, the Washington Post reported that a legal team was preparing to file up to 120 additional lawsuits against Combs alleging sexual assaults that spanned decades. These lawsuits include accounts for over 100 alleged victims, including 25 minors, with both male and female victims, and many alleged that they were drugged, threatened, or bribed to remain silent. Attorney Tony Busby, leading the effort, stated that their investigation implicated not only Combs, but also others who allegedly participated or enabled the assaults. Busby described the allegations as, quote, shocking, and condemned those who acted as complicit bystanders. The first 6 lawsuits were filed in New York federal court on October 13th of 2024, and by September of 2024, Combs was formally arrested and indicted in the Southern District of New York on charges of racketeering, sex trafficking by force, and transportation for purposes of prostitution. He was denied bail 3 times, and he remains in federal custody at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, awaiting his trial. And at this point, to get a better understanding, let's take a closer look at some of the allegations currently being brought against Sean Diddy Combs. And this is where we learn a lot about Diddy parties. A former adult film star claimed she was groomed into trafficking over time. She claimed she worked the events where she claims alcohol was laced with drugs. Another man who was working security at an event was given a drink that was laced, and then he was raped by Combs. There were freak-offs in hotels where he allegedly had days-long sex parties involving multiple sex workers and would record these parties, which, listen, whatever consenting adults want to do with their time, none of my business. Consenting being the key phrase here. But they would allegedly book rooms, and those rooms would be stocked with drugs and other items. And during these freak-offs, Combs allegedly would violently attack his victims, which led to injuries that would take weeks to heal. He would also allegedly force Cassie Ventura to perform in these acts even when she didn't want to. Now, remember in that last segment, I told you that the key phrase was consenting. In this section, the key phrase is going to be adult, because there are so many claims that children were present at these freak-off parties. There is a man who alleges that when he was just 16, he went to Sean's first, quote, white party in 1998. The place was packed with celebrities and executives. He claims he ran into Combs, they started talking, and then moved to a more private area. Combs allegedly told him that he had the right look, and Combs could make anyone a star. The man then claims Sean ordered him to drop his pants so he could examine and touch him, while telling him that it was a, quote, rite of passage, and Combs also allegedly asked him, quote, "Don't you want to be a star?" Yuck. There's another instance where he is accused of drugging and assaulting a 10-year-old boy in his hotel room. This was supposed to be an audition for the boy, but he was given a soda that was laced. The same claim goes for a 17-year-old would-be contestant on Making the Band. He claims that Combs forced him to do things with him and a bodyguard during a 3-day audition. And just recently, we have seen a lawsuit come forward from a woman who claims that she was raped by both P. Diddy and Jay-Z when she was just 13. It was at an MTV after party, and like all the other allegations, she was given a drink, and well, you know the rest. However, both of them deny the allegations. And again, there are so many more allegations and lawsuits. Now, Sean Combs is currently sitting and is accused in an indictment of racketeering conspiracy and using his business to commit crimes, quote, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice. P. Diddy, who is 54 years old, is facing serious federal charges that could lead to a lengthy prison sentence if he's convicted. And here's a breakdown. Racketeering and conspiracy. This charge is for allegedly being involved in organized crime, and if convicted, he could face life in prison. Sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. This charge is allegedly forcing or tricking someone into sex trafficking. If convicted, he could face life in prison, but there's a mandatory minimum of 15 years. Transportation for prostitution. This charge is for allegedly transporting someone for prostitution, and if convicted, he could face up to 10 years in prison. And if P. Diddy were convicted on all counts and the sentences were served consecutively, one after another, he could potentially face life in prison with a minimum of 15 years added and up to an additional 10 years. However, the final sentence will depend on how the judge decides to sentence him. Combs is scheduled to stand trial on May 2025. He has pleaded not guilty to all of the charges, and I think it's going to be one of the biggest legal battles in the entertainment world, and I am curious if they will air it or stream it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'm Bacon Bears, and that's my opinion.